Hey, good morning, guys. It's Cheryl from Tinker's Cart Art, and I found these picket fence pieces in my yard. Not like I don't have enough projects around here on my shelves of all sorts, but these were kind of cool. They're very rough. I think I'll paint a Santa and a gnome on them. And I thought maybe you'd want to come along for the ride. I have no idea what I'm doing with them yet. I've not painted these before, but it will be fun to experiment. So thank you guys for joining me, and say hello and good morning. Tell me where you're from. Tell me if you can see and hear me well. And I'm going to turn the camera around so you can watch. It'll take a second. You'll be upside down. Hang on and we'll get started. I'm also going to watch the comments on the computer. So if you have any questions, let me know and I will try to answer them. So hang on. It's going to be a little ride. And I think you might be right side up now. I'll pull you up on my laptop so I can see what you're seeing, because these are an odd shape. They're long. You might not see the whole thing, but I will move them around so that you can see what I'm doing. Really, they're just old pieces of the tops of a picket fence that blew down in my yard. And I'm going to paint them with acrylic paints. And I just took out some basic colors. I'm going to do them Christmassy, so I've got my red and green. When I make their beards, I usually like to use a gray that's made with a little blue, so it's not so dull. So I have a little blue out, some metallic gold, maybe on Santa's buckle. Again, I roughly sketched out with a piece of chalk a little bit of a guideline. And because I'm using similar colors on both, I thought I would do a gnome and a Santa. So these are pretty rough. So I'm going to use some of my bristly brushes because they're a little stiffer and they will dig into the little grooves a bit. But remember, this is just a weird surface. It's not going to come out smooth and perfect, which is kind of cool because you're not going to fuss and worry about what it looks like. And it's another little idea that you could find all sorts of fun things to paint on. They don't have to always be a canvas or paper or whatnot. I'm always looking and trying to find weird, odd bits to paint just for fun on these lives, which I do on a whim when I have a minute. So I appreciate you guys tuning in anyway. So good morning. So I'm going to paint a Santa. I'm going to paint a gnome. I'm going to use some flesh color for Santa's face. It was funny because I sketched it on and his face was here and there was these two holes that were looking like eyes, which would be very wonky, zombie looking eyes. So I moved his face up. And actually the paint's covering pretty good. Like I said, I wasn't sure because I've not painted anything this rough before. And I'm not worrying because you're going to see those little grooves from the fence, and I don't care. I'm not going to worry. This is going to be sort of a rustic, vintagey looking kind of thing. So I'm going to paint Santa's face flesh to start. Let me grab some brushes. I'm not terribly prepared this morning, so bear with me. And only thing on the little gnome that we need the flesh color for is his nose. So look, let's just put a nose in there. I think you could almost outline some of these elements we're painting in black. Like you could have almost outlined them in black first and painted the color over and have a little black outline showing. I was not sure if I wanted that or not. So if I find I need to do that at the end, I will put a little bit of black outlining. And you know what I'm going to do? Actually, I shouldn't have rinsed my brush off because while I'm here when the acrylic on the face is wet, even if I'm painting on canvas, this is a good idea. I want to give a little blush to Santa's cheek, a little blush to the gnome's nose. I just take the brush I had my flesh colored paint on and take the teensiest bit of red. I don't want it too pink. I don't want him to look like, you know, remember that puppet Madam on that Hollywood Squares game? And she had those bright cheeks. Every time I paint something with cheeks, I think of her. So I mixed a very light pink, and it's very close to the color of the flesh because I don't want it to stand out. I can always deepen it if I need to. I'm going to give the top of my gnome's nose a little bit. When I do this sort of thing, I would rather have it come out so light that you don't see it and build it up, rather than go on here with a big slash of red and have it, you know, trying to tone it down. I put a little tiny bit of red for Santa's nose. If I think I wanted a little more, I just add a little bit at this point. I make it a little brighter. I might want it a little brighter on the top of gnome, the gnome's nose. We're going to paint this gnome as a Christmas gnome. So that's why I've got these Christmas colors out. I was just watching a Christmas movie this morning, and now I am in the Christmas mode. So here we go. All right, so I do not need my flesh anymore. Why don't I paint Santa's hat red, and his body is going to be red. And again, I like these bristly brushes. They're filberts, they're the rounded end. You find these in more of the fine acrylic and oil painting sections of the craft stores. I use them a lot. I love them even on canvas for my landscapes. They dig really right into the grooves. So this guy, actually I'm going to use a bigger brush because we've got a lot of space to cover here. So I'm going to just start right in on the red. And again, oh, hey, Jan, good morning. Hi, Eric. You guys are up early. And thanks for watching. So I'm going to put a little red bob on the top of his hat. So I'll leave a little space there. And you can see me, right, you guys? I'm looking in making sure that I'm painting under the camera. Sometimes it's hard to know. So I'm just doing a quick coat. And I'm really surprised it's covering really well, even though this is like a gray surface. And afterwards, I may give it a little bit of a protective coat, like a polyurethane, like a water-based polyurethane. It will shine it up a little bit, and it will protect it outside if you want to put it outside. You could almost cut them a little smaller and mount them on a wreath if you wanted to. So anyways, I'm going to leave a little place here for some white, and my hat is red. I'm going to go ahead and just jump down to his suit. I think I'll take his beard down to about here. I'm going to paint right over. I sketched on where his little belt and buckle will go, but I'll remember. I'm going to just go right over that. This is kind of fun. I was thinking this morning about Santas and gnomes, and actually I'm going to do a nutcracker later on something. I have a nutcracker idea. One of my illustrations for one of my Christmas cards is nutcrackers. So I thought that would be fun on a really thin, the canvas that I love, the 10 by 20 canvases. So, all right, so this is going to be his suit. It's going to be his coat. Can you see I'm going kind of down towards the bottom? I think you can see me on the camera. I put it up high, hopefully, so you can see it. Let me know if you are able to see what I'm doing. If not, I will adjust. And we'll leave his boots black. So there's our little Santa. I do like even something simple like this. I still add some shading. You guys who have painted with me know I have a couple of methods for shading and highlighting. One is wet in wet, which is what I'm going to do here. And even though it's a simple rustic project, why not add some shading? So I wanted just to go with a darker color, maybe like a maroony. And all I'm going to do is use the colors I have out. I'm taking a little black into my red. And I'm going to make a maroon. I'm going to put it right on. There'll be a little shadow here from his hat band. There'll be a little shadow under here, under that little pom-pom. So when I'm working wet in wet, I'm working quickly. I want my colors to both be wet when I do that. And I use my dry brush a lot. So I've laid on a dark. And then I'm going to just dry off my brush and just use this dry brush to blend. And again, kind of quick so that I can blend those together. There's a pretty good blend already there, but I'm just going between the two wet colors with a dry brush and just smushing it, and there it gives you the impression of it's a little shadow, and it just is kind of nice, adds a little bit extra to my painting. Same thing under the beard. There would be a little bit of shadow. And even if the paint is dry, this is drying. It's kind of dry, but it's blending nicely. I'm really scrubbing. You don't want to take one of your nice brushes and one of your nice flats or something and scrub with it. That's why these brushes are great. Although you could always use your chip brush too and scrub. But I don't worry about my brush with these guys. I just kind of put it in and scrub it. And I didn't even have to go get a maroon paint. Remember, I try to tell you guys what to mix just from your primaries. You don't need all the paints under the sun. Although if I showed you my shelf over there with all the paints under the sun, you probably wouldn't believe me, but it is nice to know what colors to mix when you need to. So I do try to go into that with you guys when I'm in classes and whatnot. You might want to even brighten up. So say I've got my shadows, right? I'm doing a little wet and wet shading. If your paint even starts to dry, you can just re-wet it. I'm going to re-wet it a little bit because in the middle, just for fun to show you guys, I'm going to give it a highlight. And I'm not going to use white because I don't think I want him to have a pink Santa suit. I'm going to use some of my orange. And I'm just going to go right in there over the wet paint so that it will blend a little bit. I'm drying off the red off my brush and just going to take some orange. And in the middle of his suit, I just want it a little lighter. And you can see it just a little bit. I know it's shiny on the camera, so sometimes it's a little hard to see. But see how I just laid in some orange there and just kind of mixed it a little bit. These shadows and highlights, if they sort of blend in and disappear, I just, when it's all dry and I'm at the end and I look at what I want to do, I could always add it in a little more. So there. The boots are going to be black. They're pretty simple. Why don't we paint them in? Since I have a darker color on my brush, I don't need to rinse it. I'm going to just wipe the color off and go right into my black. And I'm going to paint it as a big black mass for now. I know his little tops of his boots are there, but let's paint it black and I can shade those afterwards, as well as there's two boots. It's going to be a little darker in the middle. And when these are done, I'll put the black on. I'll show you how I'm going to make it look like there's two boots there. This is kind of chopped off at the bottom, but because it's a little rustic piece, I don't really care. I've got a little black rectangle just for his shoes there, right? I'm going to let it dry the tiniest bit, and then I'm going to put some highlights to show you where the boots are. And also, we have the little belt that's going to be black. But I'm going to let that dry a little bit more and maybe put a little highlight on it before I put that last touch of the belt on. So these guys are both going to get beards. How I make my beards on my gnomes and my Santa is I go in with a gray and then I add white on top. Now, remember, when I make grays, I like to paint really with color. I don't like just black and white. It's a little dull. I am going to make up a gray, but I am going to incorporate my blue into it so it's a blue gray. I'd rather have something like a blue gray rather than just black and white. So I'm going to get a little black into my white to make a gray. I don't know if you can see me there. I'll do it over here. And a little blue, because I just want that blue gray. It's just a nicer look to, I think. See, isn't it nicer than just the black and white? It's so dull, but this gives a little, packs a little punch. So let's paint in just our mustache and beard here of Santa. He'll get a little mouth afterwards on top, but let's just get where it's going to be a beard. Now, I also do the same sort of thing underneath where his little pom-pom and his hat band are. Same sort of color. A little gray first, and then I put my white on top. I am finding that this is drying a little quick. It's really sucking in the paint because it's a really dry surface. It's not prepped at all. I suppose I could have prepped it with a polyurethane or something first, but I wanted to have this rough texture. I gave it a quick sand, but nothing that really smoothed it out. I didn't want it smooth. I wanted to kind of use that texture. So we've got a little beard and mustache for Santa. So let's start on our Christmas gnome. I use the chalk a lot, even when I'm painting on canvas. If I've painted my background and I'm working on my elements or my scene, and I want to adjust or paint or design on the fly, I just do it with the chalk. Because remember, once it's dry and you have any chalk showing, it wipes right off. It's such a good, handy little tool to have in with your paints. He's going to have kind of a long beard. He's going to go down here. And with my wet and wet, it's a little tough because this is drying, sorry, really quickly, but we'll make it work. So I've got a little base coat of my beards there. I'll do this little bit afterwards. Right now I want to work on the beard, so I've got my gray blue on. And I'm going to get another brush. Again, I'm going to use these brushes because I like, because the texture I'm painting on these guys are good to get into the nooks and crannies. Okay, so now I'm going to just take pure white, which I need a little more clean white. I'll just pop that on my palette there. And I'm going to go kind of heavy with this. I know lots of times I'm telling you to dry brush and go light on your paint and wipe most of it off, but I want some texture here. I want it to look hair-like. when I'm doing that sort of thing, I start at the bottom and work up so that it's the direction that the beard grows, say. So each layer I put on is on top. It's not going to look choppy. If I started up here, I would be cutting off all my nice little strokes. So we got a little bit of a curl, say, down here. Or however you want to do it. But I'm mixing a little bit of red because that's wet. So I'm going to grab some more white and just go over that. Can you see this kind of a craggly brush? The more you really beat it up though too, you want it a little craggly because look at the nice hairy strokes that you get. And I'm just going to work up in layers like I said. I am wanting a little of the gray to show through. I will probably go back with a second coat when that's dry and actually emphasize some of these little shapes too. It's a very thin beard because it's on a picket fence, but you can make any kind of little hair strokes you'd like. Just go from top to bottom. Around here is where his mouth is going to be, so I'll do a stroke like that. And now for the mustache, we're going to just, again, follow the shape of the mustache, the way the hair would go, the way it would grow. And we'll let that dry and do a coat or two more. Same idea on my gnome. I should have painted my color under here first, but that's okay. Let's get the beard in and we can always put some little hair on top going over that color that his little shirt will be. But can you see why I want to start at the bottom and work up? I want these strokes that I'm doing now to overlay on top of the previous stroke. And I'm just working my way right up. It has nice texture just because of the wood the beard does, doesn't it? And again, right on up to the top. The gnomes don't really have too much of a, separation from the beard, but I'll go and say that this is where, his mouth that we're not going to see is there, but I think I may kind of go out on these sides so well, that's hair coming from underneath. The gnomes are weird because they have no other facial features. It's, there might be a little mustache here, right? It's hard to tell. That's all right. All right, I want it to dry a tiny bit, so I think I am going to pop over and just get a little gray underneath my little pom-pom and hat band. So I'm using that same bluey gray, just mixing it on the fly, really. And he's going to have a little bit of almost like a Santa hat on too, because he's going to be a Christmas gnome, so we'll do that. So just a little bit of gray there. It's got a little blue, but that's okay. And same idea. I'm going to use the same brush, same white paint. I'm not going to use strokes that are like hairs, but I'm going to do more of a little curly Q kind of a thing, just to get that little look. Just little curved strokes. It's mixing with the blue. That's fine because I want to have multiple layers and have some dimension. So I will have it a little gray first and then a few bright whites that will pop. So that's that. Now we'll let that dry a bit. I think now I might go back, and you know how I said I might want to brighten up my little Santa suit and hat with a little bit of that orange. Now that it's dry, it will pop a little bit more. So I've just taken some of the orange. I'm going to lightly put it on top. And now I'm going to dry my brush off because I love that dry brush technique. It's not going to blend into the red so much, but I'm going to just, with a dry brush, see, it's almost like putting on your makeup. You're just kind of lightly feathering that out. And same up here. It gives some dimension. It really gives a little more than just painting your Santa hat straight red. Little shading and some brightness, and I think it's pretty cool. That's done now, so we can put our we can get an idea where our belt's going to go. So let me get a little black paint, and we will put that on. If you guys are watching and are not part of my Learn to Paint with Cheryl group, it's here on Facebook. And it's part of the Tinker's Cart Art page, but it's a nice little group of artists helping artists. I go on with tutorials. I'll address different issues you might be having. I'll give you little lessons. It's nice because it's just a little smaller community. And like I said, the people over there are fabulous about helping everyone out and encouraging you. So if you would like that, do join that group. Okay, got his belt. We'll let it dry. We'll put a little gold buckle. And why don't I, well, this is drying a little bit. It's almost dry. Let's do his boots. So I'm going to just give a little highlight down below where the little top of the boots would be. I think I'll just kind of eyeball it here. I'm just going back into that gray blue I made. And remember, it's weird because this missing part of the thing. But a little highlight in the center of the boot so you can see now, because it's a little lighter in these two spots, this dark here is making it look a little bit like it's separate boots. So it just needed just a little bit, just a little gray. And then I'm gonna just take a little bit of white, just a little on my brush, but take some off. I don't wanna go on here and paint a big harsh white line. I just want to make like the tops of the little boots a little lighter, very lighter bit in the middle maybe. There, and I think it, let me hold it back. You have to hold your things back because you don't know what they're gonna look like. And it looks a little bit like boots now. I really want it to show, so let me get even a little. This is what I mean about starting light. I told you I want it very light. I don't want a harsh white line. Well, I might want to bring it up to a little brighter, but I'd rather do that step by step than all of a sudden just jump on there. I could have even put little fur tops on the top of his boots even. But I just want to tone that down. I just wanted to put a little something there. There, I think that's good enough. If you really want to, you could outline it with white, but I think I like it like that. And now I'm going to go back and give another coat of hair and fur. And you can almost see the little heavier strokes, how it looks just like a little wave of hair. That's what we're going for. So I am going to go with another coat of white, fairly heavy on this little bristly brush, but I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to go here and there with a stroke. You see? It puts the darker areas behind, so it's just, I know it's just the beard, but remember, if you were looking at a real beard, there would be some darker areas which are behind and some hair that's brighter covering. And so if you just go here and there now with some strokes of white, you will get that effect. If you painted it heavy the whole way with all this white, you would be back to square one. You wouldn't have your darks and lights. You could curve them and make them, you know, however you want. And the same with the mustache. Now that we go on with the mustache, pretty bright, because that's closest to us, and that's comes out over the beard a little bit. See how it's sort of starting to stand out now? What I'll do after is I'll go in with a little shadow under here to make it really pop if you want. And again up here, I'm just going to put little heavier daubs of white. This is kind of more of a little circly look. There. Oh, you know what? He's got white eyebrows. Why don't we just pop those in now? Just give him a little white eyebrows with this. Oh, the brush is a little bit kind of bristly. I maybe should have used something smaller. But with just a clean brush with some clean water, I can take away any little boo-boos or bits that I don't like. So, there. While I'm here, you know what? I think it needs a little white. Oh, it's too heavy. I mean, I'm going too heavy with my brush. But I just want to give him a little bit of white. See the little white highlights on the cheeks and the nose, maybe? Just a little to brighten them up. If it goes on too heavy, you can just, again, take your clean brush and just soften it a little bit if you need to. I can even go in with a little detailed brush and make that afterwards. Okay, we need to give our little gnome guy, the only thing about this is, and it'll be a good lesson, I probably should have done it a color. I was doing it like a Santa hat, so it's white. But unlike the Santa where we have a flesh to break it up, this white is right kind of close to his beard. So I'll tell you how you can make that stand away. So let's just do it anyways as an experiment. And we want a little heavier paint for his beard here. I'm liking the texture. I told you guys I don't think I've painted on anything so rough, but what do you think? It's kind of cool. Who has some old fence posts hanging around? You could go and paint them. If you had a craft show coming up or something like that, these would sell, I bet, really well. And simple and fast, because look at how long have we been painting? We haven't been painting long. And let me see, 24 minutes. That's not bad for two little pieces. You could whip these guys out pretty quick, I betcha. have fun with them. Don't struggle. They're not supposed to be something that gives you stress. They're fun to paint. Now, if I want to separate that hat band from the beard, what would I do? I'd give it a little shadow. With what? The color that we were using. Let's go right under here with that gray. Dry off the brush, soften it. Maybe I'll go around the nose even. It'll be a little bit of a shadow there. So the same thing into Santa's beard. If I want it to stick out a little more, I've just taken some little tiny bit of paint that's on my brush, dry it off, soften it, and you can always go back with white if you need to. But now that hat looks like it's sitting on top of the beard. All right, let's finish Santa up and then we'll finish our gnome. We'll do that little buckle. That's still a little wet. I might want to pop on, if I look at it as it dries, like I said, I might want to pop on a little heavier white here and there. You know what would be cool is some glitter on that too. I think I'm going to have to add some glitter. And his little mouth. Okay, so I'll get a detail brush because we are going to work on some tinier things. So I'm just going to use that little detail synthetic brush. And I'm going to take some black. And I'm going to give him some eyes. I think I'm just going to do little tiny eyes. Sometimes little tiny eyes are cute on Santa instead of getting big involved with the whole eye. But look at on something simple like this. Instead of let's move him around so I can get at him without putting my hand in all the paint. They're just little ovally circles. You always want to have a little highlight in your eyes when you make them. So when that's dry, we'll just pop a little white dot. Let's give him, oh, you know what? Hold everything because I've goofed up. His mustache has to be up by his nose, doesn't it? So, hang on. We've got to move Santa's mustache because his mouth would be here then. So, stop the presses. We've got to go in and make Santa look a little more normal. And his mustache will be here. All I'm doing is putting a little of that shading color in just as we started. And his little cheeks will peek out. And then we know where to put his mouth. And it will look a little bit more like a real Santa without the craziness of a mouth in the wrong place. There. Okay, so which means his mouth, which is just going to be a little red lips. I think I might add a tiny bit of flesh because I don't want him to look like he's wearing lipstick. And it's just a little curved stroke, just like that. That's better. I can see him in my video now. And then if you want, you can always add some little highlights, little brighter whites if you need it. Anyway, with your little brush while you've got your detail brush out. Let me look at him in the film. It's easier. That's how I figure out if something's wrong or not lots of times, is take a picture or look at it like as I'm painting in the video. Sometimes if you hold it up in a mirror, it just helps you find any little bits and pieces that you didn't like. I got the shadow a little lost here, so I'm just going to tuck that in and leave that for, leave that for a minute, and we'll go back and see what we need. I didn't mean to spread the pink around there. All right, there. And his little buckle is just a metallic gold, or whatever color you want to use, but I'm going to use the gold. I'm just going to make a buckle. Buckle there, adds a little shine, pretty cute. Okay, let's let him dry a little bit, then we'll come back and add some little bits and pieces if we need it. So we'll just put him here. And again, I was going to paint my gnome a little with the Christmas colors. So I think I will do the red hat like Santa. I know it's repetitive and you guys just saw me do it, but we'll do it again real quick. He doesn't have the little pom-pom on the top. I'm going to make him just with a regular old gnome hat. And we'll just get that layer of red on. I think I need a little more red. Okay. And then we'll shade it with that maroon, just like we did on Santa. I could certainly have used a bigger brush here. It's fun to have these little knots showing through too, though. So his little shadow would be again behind this little hat band, but we're going to paint it red to start. orange up here and a little maroon down here. So there, we've got our red on. And it is a gray background, so sometimes this color's not as bright as it would be if you were painting on something smooth or light, but we'll just let it dry and do another coat if we need to. So it's the great thing about acrylics. It's you can just do as many coats as you need. The important thing is let it dry between. So if you're putting multiple coats to cover, don't think that, oh, well, it's not covering, let me glob on the paint and have it really thick. That's not going to help. Do a nice thin coat, and then do another coat if you need it, another coat, but let it dry very well between. So there's our little shading. And let's get a little highlight in there of that orange, because I really would like to do the tip of it up here a little bit lighter, the top of his hat, and probably the middle a little bit. I like when things have variations of color and it's just not flat like you're coloring in a coloring book. You've got to add some lights and darks and you will get some dimension there. Again, I'm going to dry brush a little more on that afterwards, but that looks pretty good. There we are. We can always go a little heavier on this little hat band if we wanted to. Could have also done, I like it as he's wearing a little Santa hat. So you could also have done a green band or something else, but I like the idea that it might be like the gnome is wearing a Santa hat. We did our shadow here, but it's a little dark, so I'm just going to dry brush a little white over it. If I want any higher bits of white at all here and there, I can do that. And I'm going to use green for the bottom. On the gnomes, you don't have to really put feet or legs or anything. You just kind of go right on there with your color. So I'm going to just put a green down there. I might maybe put like snowflakes or stripes or polka dots or something just to brighten it up or add a little pizzazz. Of course, we do always have glitter for that. This is just kind of a holly green. Nice Christmas green. I'm still going to shade underneath his beard and maybe bring some of the white on top after so it doesn't look like it's cut off by the shadow. But there, so I just fill in the color I like. It could be blue, it could be any color you want. Just put it on, and then with a little bit of black into whatever color you're using to make your shadow. I'm just going to go under the beard with that dark green, almost black, so it looks like the beard's on top. And then with the dry brush, if it doesn't, that's blended very well, but if it doesn't, you can just dry off the brush you're using and blend it with that if you need to. And again, I want to add a little bit of lighter green there. I'm going to use this lime green. Again, you could have mixed it. If you had your green, add a little yellow and white, you would come out with that same color. But there are particular colors I do love, and so I keep the bigger bottles of them. And in the middle, I'm just going to get it a little lighter. And if it doesn't show up, we'll just go back afterwards. I mean, it's showing up, but if it doesn't show up as much of a pop that we'd like, we'll go back at it when it's dry. Gnomes are pretty super simple. I mean, look at, he's just about done, and I think he needs a little bit of this something something, so we're going to add something to him. But let's go back to Santa Claus. It seems like my gold has sunk into that really porous wood. So what you can do, and lots of times I will just sometimes undercoat my gold with just like a yellow ochre or something as a base coat. It looked like it was really showing up here well, but it did sink in because that fence is so porous. So let's just put another coat. I even have some like it's glitter dust kind of. It's got a little sparkle. I might throw that on it after too, or just the regular glitter, but we'll try some of those things. I'm not sure if I need a little dividing line here for his boots. Let me see. I might just try a thin line down. Maybe just to divide it, maybe. Maybe a little highlight on the top of his boots. We certainly need a little highlight in his eyes, just little dots. The trick to those is always, especially if they're bigger eyes, is to always make them at the same spot. So if you're making their eyes and you're giving a little white highlight, do it like at 1 o'clock and 1 o'clock. Don't do 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock, because then you'll have Marty Feldman eyes on your, whatever it is you're painting. So do always put that highlight in. It brings the eyes alive, but make sure you do them in the same spot. You can even make a little bit more of a highlight on his cheeks and nose if you wanted to. His eyes did get a little wonky shaped, so I'm going to fix that. Just kind of fixing this little shape a little bit, not that you'd really notice. I wanted eyes, that one a little smaller. I know it's just a little pokey detail, you guys. Don't have to keep you while I do that, but I think he's pretty well done. I'm not going to do anything extra on him. And like I said, maybe we'll sparkle up his thing here. This is going to just dry as a little sparkly, or you could put glitter. Sometimes the glitter on the beard is nice. If you've lost any bits of your beard, I know I goofed up here, so it looks a little, not a little smoother than I'd like. So I'm just going to add some little hairs in bright white now with my liner brush. Cover up with the pink. I kind of made a little boo-boo there with the pink. Cover that up, and I think you're good to go. Santa, what do you think? Santa's good to go, right? Gnome guy could get a little brighter on his belly if we wanted, just a little brighter. You know, I put it on and just blended it with the big old brush by its just one couple strokes. If I thought it needed any more white highlights, you just step back from your guy and you look and you just get a little bit of brighter whites if you think you need it. I think I will paint some little snowflakes on his hat. Now, it's going to be rough because the rough texture of the wood. You could almost do with a paint marker too. This isn't quite dry, so I'm going to use my brush. There's another thing. The paint markers are fabulous, but don't do it on any paint that's even damp or slightly wet because you will ruin that marker in a second. So I'm just going to paint them on just to show you how we can add a little bit of detail, a little more to the gnome, where he's pretty simple. He's pretty simple and basic. You could go and do polka dots. What's our simple way of doing polka dots? The back end of a brush and just dot them on. Or you could paint big ones. I sometimes like to put snowflakes on my gnomes' hats. They're pretty easy. I just start with like kind of a cross. I think I just kind of go in the middle. And I start that way, then I add a little more detail. But let's just place some on there. So I'm just going to place some just with my little detail brush, which is not as thin as I'd like. It's not the thinnest one I have, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. See, I'm just kind of spacing them apart a little bit. You can make them all the same size. You can make them different sizes. You can do whatever you want. You are the boss of your painting. Like I always tell you, I'll show you what I'm doing. You're welcome to use the same colors and copy the same design, but I do encourage you to make it your own by changing up the colors or the elements or anything you wish. So I put them on like that, then I sometimes add some little dots, some little lines. Sometimes it's just little lines and dots and little dashes. The little ones could just have dots. These bigger guys could have like little dots and dashes. It doesn't have to be fancy or detailed, but doesn't it add a little something now to the piece? Just those little... Yeah, little ones just with dots. This guy sort of lost some detail over here. Anyway, you get the idea. You get the idea, and I don't think it needs too much more, and I'll let you guys get on with your day. I appreciate you popping in and painting with me. I never know sometimes how these are going to turn out, so sometimes it could be a disaster, but anyhow. So that's good enough here. You could always add more detail on down bottom if you wanted. You could write Merry Christmas. You could put a name. I got some white here. So what do you think? Hey, I'll check and see if anybody has any questions or comments. But that's that. You guys are great for watching me. Oh, Jen, I think so too. I love things that pop. You guys always see me paint dull, 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 dark, 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 get lighter, 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 put that last pop of color on, and it really sings. And that is my little strategy. Oh, another thing, you guys, if you did not get notified this morning, if you want to be notified when I pop on randomly like this live, or I have an announcement or an event, I will text you, but you need to sign up. So if you text me at this number, you will be on my list, and I will give you a little heads up when I go online to paint. Also look for my, I'm going to turn you guys around again, so hang on. I'm going to turn my camera back, and I know it's kind of a tricky way to do it, but that's the only way I can. So anyways, Learn to Paint with Cheryl is my private group on the Tinker's Card Art page. You can text me at this number. You can screenshot it if you want. Then you'll be notified. And thanks for popping in and painting with me. I am done pretty much with my fall and Thanksgiving paintings, but here comes Christmas, so we'll be doing lots of fun Christmas projects. So keep on my page, and you'll be notified, or text me. And I really appreciate painting with you guys. So thanks so much. Have a great day, and I will talk to you later next time. Bye.